Today we'll talk about religion, what is religion, and how do we need it to get reconciled with God. Religion is a bridge between God and man. There is a high priest who will make the atonement for the reconciliation of the man with God. So that is the concept of religion. Why? For the remission of sins. So what will the high priest do? He will make the atonement through sacrifice or through some ritualistic practices which will be eradicating or erasing the sins of man so that he can get closer to God, so that he can learn from God, obtain forgiveness, and live a good life in order to get to heaven. If he doesn't live a proper life in accordance with the goodness of God, then he will end up going to hell. So there is an eternity which all the religions will believe in order to have peace in eternity. Every religion will be having a high priest who does the atonement for the reconciliation of man with God. So that is the concept of a religion. You take any religion starting from the Jewish religion. There was no religion during Abrahamic period. God called Abraham to faith. That is why people continued in the belief of having an Abrahamic God. And then during the time of Moses, when God asked him to establish the tabernacle and the rituals and all, so there were specific people from a specific tribe called the Levites who served as high priests. So they were the high priests who made atonement during the Vedic period. Also, we find the Brahmanas serving as the high priests. In Islam, we have Imam. Likewise, in many other cultures, though the people believe in having a high priest or not, they have a leader. They have leaders, like in Sikhism, there are Granthis. Granth means book. So Granthis, scholars, who will teach them about what is good and what is bad. So this was the culture that was going on from many, many generations. There is concept of God, there is concept of sin, concept of the redemption, justification, sanctification, forgiveness, in order to obtain moksha or nirvana or salvation, in order to get to heaven and live in peace in heaven. That's called eternity. So otherwise ending up in the fire or in hell or in narak. So whatever it is, whatever is the word, it's all the same. Now, how did the cult occur? There are selfish people everywhere. At home, in workplace, in the locality, and in the religion, there are people who act selfishly. Selfish motives for position, selfish motives for power, selfish motives for money. So for power, money, and greed, when these things play a role, they hide the truth and they bring in into observance what is faulty. So that is what we call as cult. So in every religion, there is cult. So when the cult has occurred, the truth has been hidden. The truth of what is real has been hidden. So the religion is portrayed as something that people belong to, that people follow, irrespective of how they live and all. It's about belongingness, belonging to a religion or belonging to a community. So that is how the people are fooled. Why? For the selfish motives. So that is there throughout the world. Throughout the world. In every religion, that is cult. So there is false preaching in every religion. That is when the people were forbidden to have the scriptures, to have an access to the scriptures. And even if people are interested to know it for themselves, they are forbidden to read their own books, or they are diverted in such a manner that they depend on the interpreter, or they depend on the leaders to obtain knowledge. And they blindly believe that in spite of, instead of knowing it for themselves or reading it for themselves. That is how the distractions have occurred over the ages. So people do not know the facts about religion at all, and why we require religion as a means to go to God. Now, what about Christianity? You see, starting from the Jewish religion, there had been prophecies which prophesied about a high priest, an eternal high priest, making an eternal atonement, or calling him the Messiah, or the chosen one who will make an eternal atonement. So when Jesus came and he had gone, and all these things have happened, and people are getting to know him. People are getting to know him. So whatever the religion has mentioned about an eternal sacrifice or eternal atonement has happened through Jesus. When the people have got to realize that Jesus came and made the atonement, and he's God who became the eternal sacrifice, like all the other religions talk about God coming down to earth. Hinduism talks about that. The Vedic period talks about that. The prophecies of Isaiah talk about that. So God coming as man, God with us, Emmanuel. So God comes down to the earth and he makes the atonement for the Loka Kalyanam. Loka Kalyanam is the reconciliation. Reconciliation through the atonement or the eternal sacrifice. So it is not about somebody telling something and people getting to blindly believe that. No, people were encountering God, encountering the salvation experience, or the remission of sins, or the forgiveness of sins, and the justification through the faith. All of this, when they got to know and have their personal experience. So nobody can force you into believing God. Nobody can force any human being, for that matter, into believing God. Your pursuit for God is your choice. Everybody will have the idea and ideology about a God. But if you have your own pursuit for God, you will get to meet. ढूंढने पे भगवान भी मिल जाता. So that is what is said. So if you go in search of God, you will find him. That's for sure. Because he's a living God and he can interact, he can catch you at a point, or you can have an encounter with him and he can talk to you. All these things will happen. When people were getting into this salvation experience, they realized and they had known that this is what the scriptures were mentioning and we have it already. We didn't realize, but we have it already. And then people started to tell about it, starting from the disciples of Jesus. So that is when a person, a disciple named Thomas, who doubted when Jesus resurrected him. After his resurrection, Jesus went to the disciples. They were in a room, and he will be questioning, like, how can I believe? So Jesus will let him touch his wounds because he's risen in flesh and spirit. So then, at that point, he gets to experience the reality, the awakening, and like he falls repenting, and he obtains that strength. So then, all these people, after Jesus' ascension, as the Bible mentions, they began to proclaim the good news that yes, the scriptures have spoken about God coming down, and this has happened. This has happened through Jesus. And the proof is we experienced it. We experienced salvation. We experienced it through the divine touch that we had. And so he is real. It is God. He is God. So that is how the proclamation began. And why do we need God? We all have the need for God. And we will be searching for God in different places, in different things. Our pursuit for God will be prompting us to chase after the materialistic things. That is what the cult practices are. They will be enticing and they will be drawing you into believing, like, do this, do that, and you will get nearer to God. Do this, you will get moksha. Do this, you will get to heaven. Do this, and you will find God. So all the practices, we will be losing our soul. So that was the reason why the disciples have chosen, or anybody who comes to know God through a personal encounter will choose to speak about it, because this is real. Because this is real and everybody needs to know. There is nothing else that is needed to get to God. That is the good news. So we do not need any religion anymore to get to God. Everybody, starting from the priest to the peasant, everybody will have free access to God through the work that God himself had provided. So whatever the Messiah or the chosen one or the son that will be spoken in the Vedas, in India particularly, there is a belief that if a son is born, we will get to heaven. And that is how, killing the girl children has come. Because people over the years have gotten into the idea that, if a daughter is born, then it is a curse. If a daughter is born, then we're not going to get to heaven. So the first child should be the son. And through the firstborn, we will be saved. So this idea or this prediction has been altered. And so people started to kill or sacrifice the girl child. It is there. There are many TV shows, many TV serials also presenting these kind of taboos, which was there even when we were young. Girl children were killed. Why? Because of the concept of getting salvation through the Son. But people did not realize that it is the Son of God who will give us salvation. Every concept has spoken clearly in the scriptures. But over the generations, the truth has been altered. And that is when the taboo has entered. That is what happened even in India. So we have the scriptures talking about Jesus. We have the scriptures talking about God becoming man. When you go and search for the concept of a religion or the practice of a religion, you will find what the truth is. So leaving about all the rituals and mysteries and the magical stuff and the materialistic practices, the reality or the truth is that, yes, there is salvation, which is obtained only through the work that is done by God himself, becoming the sacrifice, the eternal sacrifice. And as a high priest, he made the atonement himself. So yes, we do have a high priest. An eternal high priest is Jesus. So the scripture of Hebrews talks about that. Who made an eternal sacrifice. So the people, when they are getting to encounter God and knowing the reality and getting touched by his love, and we know that he is real. So that was the reason people had to proclaim the good news is we don't need religion anymore. We have access to God, free access to God. Wherever you are, just as you are, you can go to God. You can go have an encounter with God. You can meet God, talk to God right where you're sitting, right now. And if God can have his mercy and he talks to you back, your life is changed forever. I mean, your perspectives have changed. So you will get peace. Why? Because you are detached from all the worldly things. So your priorities will change. That is what the precious pearl. You are touched by God's love. And that's enough. That is what you hold in your heart. So that is about religion. So do we need a religion now to go to God? We don't have to. I don't say that leave your religion. Even Christianity is called a religion. And Christianity indeed is not a religion. The Christianity started right after Jesus' ascension during the time of Paul's ministry. So Thomas had come to India. The disciples have chosen to distribute themselves and go and proclaim the good news to different parts of the world. And that is when Saint Thomas, we say, or the disciple Thomas, had come to India in 52 AD. So Christianity in India is as old as that. So when Thomas came and he preached in India, there are many people who had an encounter with God. He didn't convict any people. How can we convict any people into believing? No, that wouldn't happen. If that had happened, people would have left their faith and gone back to their own traditional practices. But no, people were convicted. And most of the ones who got convicted were the Brahmins themselves, right from the beginning of time, because they know that the scriptures are fulfilled. So even we see a lot of Brahmins who are pastors now. Even till date, the ones who are changed is the priests, because they know the scriptures. They know so they can understand it better. They can understand the fulfillment of the scriptures and how it all happened. So if you take a lot of Christians, then you will find mostly Brahmins over there. So they are the ones with the knowledge of the Indian scriptures and the Vedas and all, and so they know, they realized. And yes, this had happened, this prophecy is fulfilled through Jesus, and then they come and then they begin to testify that yes, we have seen, yes, this is true, this has happened, and call themselves Christians from then on. Nobody forces anybody to call themselves Christians. Then during the time of Jesus, also during the time when Thomas had come, what did they have? Nothing at all. So that is the reason why nobody goes back to their faith once they get to meet God, because they know that He is real, and they hold on to their faith. So faulty things that are spread about Christianity is that they give money in order to convince people into believing that Jesus is God, which is not true. When it comes to politics, politics are there in every way. Competition and wanting to win, wanting to rule, all these are political games. Political games and politics we see in every area of life. At home, new politics, new kind of politics within the families, in the workplace, and in the temples, in the churches, in the religious places. Politics are there everywhere, and the agenda of politics will always be divide and rule. You have an idea and you don't like a person because he's not letting you execute your idea. What is that you're going to do? You will poke the other person, and you will tell something bad about, see, this person has told something bad about you. You create a fire in between. That is how two sects will happen over the time. Two groups fighting with each other within the same community, within the same place, within the same family, within the same workplace. That is what will happen. Politics. Set up the fire and watch the game, watch the fun. Divide and rule, divide and rule. That is what happened over the years in every place, in everything, family, community, religion, British rule, everywhere. That is what is disrupting the unity. What century are we living in? Do we really require a history in order to be at peace with each other? We don't require a history. We don't require the knowledge of the history at all. Yes, knowledge will set us free, but it is God who is going to touch us by His love. And when we obtain that reality of how equal human beings are and how beautifully they are made by God, we treat others with respect and kindness, and we approach each other with love. But with such kind of advanced technology and knowledge so accessible, still people blindly are going on to fight with each other. That is not needed. Not needed at all. When we hear about something, there's a quote that we have learned from our childhood. Look before you leap. That means pause a little before you say something, isn't it? So, we can stop when we hear about any certain thing which will disturb us. Faith is such a sensitive matter. Why? Because, you don't usually get to that faith or obtain that strength in the faith or the belief that a person will be having because of their own experience with that religion or with that ritualistic practices. So all of a sudden somebody comes and somebody tells, no, that is all wrong. You're not supposed to do that. Hey, who are you to say that? That is what will happen. There is no need of saying all that. We are supposed to question our own faith. That's all. You question your own faith. Do you believe a God? If yes, who is that God? Do you like a God? If yes, who is that God? And according to your idea, what is God supposed to be in your life? A question that you put for yourself. And if you have a God and if you have a name, how is it that you're worshipping that God? What is the kind of worship that you are rendering to that God? Question again. How is that God communicating with you? Question again. You can pose questions for yourself. Question yourself. Who is the God that you're worshipping? Who is the God that you're in faith holding on to. Have questions about who is God, what is your faith, how is God supposed to be, what is the relationship that you have with God, and how does this God look even? Does he have a form? Is it out of your imagination, or is it a form that you have chosen to worship? Now, where did this idol come from, or where did this picture come from? You know, or even the painting of Jesus, or whatever it is. How come that you are bowing down and worshipping these things? You know, is it even real? Have questions for yourself, so you can go in search of answers and find it for yourself. You know, with such kind of enormous technology that we have, and what is the century that we are living in, we cannot yield ourselves unto any kind of political agenda. We cannot get succumbed to any kind of political agenda, any kind of politics, nothing. We have the intellectual plane to understand what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. So we can take a minute, take 2 minutes to stop and to think about what we have heard, what we are hearing, and to take some time, at least 10 to 15 minutes, to go through what is the real picture and gain an understanding that will lead to the truth which will liberate us. That's all. And any other missionaries are coming since then. There was no Bible until 1611 at all. So it was post 1611. So during the 1700s, William Carey was the person who came. And it was in the 1800s that there was British rule and there was a lot of exploitation of the country. And past is past. How are we today? And we should be thankful to God for the sacrifices of our ancestors and, for their endurance and all. So education was there. Again, it was established by the effort of the missionaries, universities across India, and many people got educated and they were knowing the truth. So even Mahatma Gandhi says that I love Jesus, but I don't love the way Christians are, because by his time only there were a lot of distractive things going on, a lot of politics, a lot of things. So he followed Jesus's example, even ahimsa. So if one person hits on one cheek, show the other cheek. Where did this come from? From the Bible. So see, even our freedom fighters and those who fought during that time had an awakening and a realization. And those people who were Brahmins of that time and who were, merchants, had chosen to support these missionaries. Now the missionaries didn't have any money. The fact is that the local people, who were finding that this job that you're doing is a great thing and I cannot openly support you in this regard, but you will have my help. That is how it happened. Collaborations. Even when Mother Teresa came, there were so many other people around, who treated her, but later on had chosen to support her with the finances to render her services. Of course, that is Catholicism, and that story is a different thing, but I'm talking only about the service and the service-mindedness and the love of the people surrounding, people belonging to other religions, other communities. So they were compassionate enough to support the Christian missionaries do their job. They didn't come up openly. There are people even nowadays, we have people from other religions who believe on Jesus. There were our friends who belong to other religion who believed Jesus. They used to say, I love Jesus. Yeah, I know. I am, born in a Hindu family. Yes, but I worship him. I love him. When I was young, and in a nearby place, there was a girl, and she was going to a Catholic church, but she got this Bible somehow. And all the time we used to see her read the Bible. She was very young. She was only a schoolgirl and like 5th class. And, she was only 10 years old at that time. But very thoroughly, very intensely, she used to read. Her mom used to shout at her, "What is this you're reading all the time?" And she answers, "I love it, Ma. I love it. I love it. And I'm enjoying reading it." And she had been consistent in doing that, in reading the Bible. And she had known God somehow. She didn't care about the family or anything. She said, "I am a Christian." I am a Christian, and she began going to church. She calls herself a Christian. She got married and began to bring her husband to the church. Who taught her? This is something I myself had witnessed. So nobody. I was not a Christian by that time. I mean, I am born in a Christian family, but we were not into that kind of faith. No, I had a lot of questions during that time, which my grandfather used to answer. But I was not reading the Bible at that time. I saw somebody else doing that, and by the time I became a Christian and all, after so long, I was observing that this girl started coming to church with the family. Now, who forced her? Nobody. Not even her mother. Not even a Catholic school that she was going to. Nobody forced her. No, she asked the Bible in the school for herself. don't know what captivated her, uh, but this is a real story, a reality, a real thing that happened, and I myself am the witness for it. There are so many people who tell that we believe in Jesus, but we cannot tell it openly because the social cultural things, they will consume us, and we don't want to lose our access to God. We don't want to we don't want any restrictions to be imposed on us in our families. So we have our faith in God and we are in pursuit of him. And some people say that I have known Jesus, yes, I am a Christian, but I cannot say that openly. So anything, there are some people who are still in the struggle. There are some people who cannot break off the ties and come out boldly and say that yes, I'm a Christian. But there are people certainly in pursuit of God, a living God. And that is why, the attempt of trying to bring about the truth or to share few words or the love of God is important. Because when we have him, we'll have the courage. When we have him, we will have the faith. So when we get to him, we'll overcome that threshold of fear that we have within us. Will I be accepted or not? I have done a great deal of crimes. I have been so bad in my life. My perspectives were different. Will I be accepted? The fear of being accepted. The fear of being loved. The fear of exposing the vulnerability. I can't handle this anymore. The fear of, like answering themselves, in fact, over various matters. The questions about why this in life? Why this at this point of time? The questions about why do I need a God, even. The questions about whether is there a God or not. The questions about injustice. There are so many things that we will be battling with, and we don't feel like sharing it with anybody at all. But we will be suffocating inside. There will be screamings inside, and we don't know what to do about them. How am I going to even survive? How am I going to even come out of this? Find answers for this? Meet God is the answer. I would only tell about my testimony that I have known God in my life. And so I call myself a Christian. If you are interested, go and pursue him for yourself. You don't have to believe because I believe. No, I don't even want my family to do that. If you are interested in God, go pursue him for yourself. That's it. Most of the so-called nominal Christians, or most of the Christians, one of the wrong preaching is, Jesus is the real God. Believe him. Jesus is the real God. Believe him. See, Jesus is the real God. You know that, so you believe him. How can you ask the other person to believe that Jesus is God because you believe him? That's not right. If that other person has to believe that Jesus is the real God, let them go and know for themselves. Let them go and pursue for themselves. Don't tell anybody that Jesus is the real God. Go believe him. You're supposed to believe him. Go to him. No. Why should you tell? Why should we tell? Why should I tell? We don't have any need to tell, convict anybody into believing. Conviction is the work of the Holy Spirit. That means God himself. Conviction is the work of God. We are only supposed to sow the seeds. The seeds means the good things about God. That's all. The love of God. You sow the love of God. And it sprouts or it doesn't sprout. If it sprouts up a 30-fold or a 100-fold, leave it up to God. We are sharing the love of God because that is what we need. That is what everybody needs. And that is what can answer every question in life, every struggle in life. That becomes the strength because God himself is everything. And he's sufficient in everything. That is when we experience his grace. And for that, you need to find it out for yourself when you have your own pursuit for God. That's all. So I don't have any need to convict anybody, or anybody should not have any need for that matter to convict the other person. And that is impossible to do. It's something impossible to do. You don't have to consider if a person says that Jesus is the real God, go and believe him. No, don't care. Don't care. If you are interested, go pursue him yourself. Go find it out yourself. Take some time. At least do it experimentally. When we tell something, try this recipe, it's very good. It tastes very good. It comes up very good. Try this, try this on, try that on. We'd like to try anything. Just like that, do a trial and error to know whether he's real or not. Why should anybody have any need to convict somebody? And we cannot even do that for sure. We can only tell that he changed my life. I have known. So in all the questions of life, he is sufficient. That also I have known. So if you are interested, then you can pursue him for yourself. But until then, just take a moment and think about these things and make a decision. We are supposed to control our tongues. We are supposed to control our words. Just because we are with the notion of hatred toward the other communities and all, we can not simply blurt out anything that comes to the mouth, hurting the other person's emotions and all. We are not supposed to do that. And we are not even supposed to condemn somebody's faith. They are in their faith because that is what they believed and that is what they practiced. Suppose, for example, if our mother tells us to do something that doesn't have a meaning at all, but still, she would tell to us, like, do this and go, do what I say. Why? Why are you telling me I don't want to do this and all, and still we choose to do because she said it? It's sentimental, because we get sentimental. I don't like to do this at all, and we are like spellbound, struggling to do this. Why should I? That's because we get sentimental. We don't have to become sentimental when we get to God. Human sentiments are the ones which will make them get to do some things even without knowing answers for what they are doing. That's what we do most of the times, until we ourselves will begin to realize, or we come to a stand, we take a stand, and then again when our mother says, like, do this, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't. That doesn't mean that we have to be disobedient, but anything that is faulty, anything that is just because somebody said, somebody asked us to do something, it's like that. So all these practices, all the religion, all these things that are imposed by the family or the religion or the community, they are into the practices because they have their own experiences regarding that. They believe in those things because maybe they experienced some kind of power in these things. So when anybody tells that what you're doing is not right, people don't accept that. People will get angry. You cannot disturb the emotions of the people. So that is why you can only tell them that this is according to my experience. So this is where I found peace, and this is where I found solace. And thankfully, in our religion, in Christianity, you cannot impose them on to be doing any ritualistic things, because there are nothing as such. So in Christians, they are free to be themselves. And if a Christian becomes a real Christian, that means if they know God at a certain point of time, then that is because they're free to have their own pursuits. That's the reality. So we have the concept of forgiveness, sin, which requires forgiveness, redemption, and salvation, and that there is an eternity according to religion. In all the religions, it is the same. Then we have the concept of hell and heaven. After that, we will be going there, and if we have to live in peace, then we have to believe on God and get connected with them. That is what every other religion will say. Next, we have morals and ethics of equality, and the concept of forgiving the other person and being nice to the other person, maintaining peace, that also every other religion will speak. Next, we have in India, Christianity started in 52 AD when Saint Thomas, we say, or the disciple Thomas, who is a disciple of Jesus, who came to India and began to tell the truth. The people, he didn't give any money or anything to convert the people, but people had got into this experience of salvation, and that is when people began to change and call themselves Christians. From that time onwards, there were missionaries coming from that time onwards. But we had the Bible from the 16th level. After the 16th level, the Bible was introduced in the 1700s by William Carey. So we had the British rule in the 19th century, that is during the 1800s, when India was impoverished, and the rule was really severe, and there were not Christians who were doing all this. In spite of all that, there were Christian missionaries who came up, who introduced education for the underprivileged, who introduced the English education, and so many life skills for the people who were downtrodden, because that is what happened during the British rule. Those who went into oppression during that time, they began to get converted from all the communities. It's not just the Shudras, or it's not just the untouchables and all, from many other communities, because when India got impoverished and was under oppression at that time, it was the entire country that got affected. So it is not just one sect of people who got changed. No, it is many people from different communities who experienced the love of God and changed for better. So after all these things, every community again rose, and look at where we are today. Only social evil that is now prevailing is inside the person. Even let it be caste system. There are people who do not want to carry it, but then again there are people who would want to impose that caste system again. And that is how, even in education systems and in the workplaces, people are treated based upon their caste. I don't understand. What is the point? We have so much of science and genetics and all. How human beings have evolved. That, before everything else, we had the continental drift. That means the part of India, or what we are talking, or what we are calling this as a country, is a portion of Africa. Then are we going to cut down the Himalayas and send the land back to Africa? Can that happen? No, because the portion of Africa had come due to the continental shift and got attached to the trans-Himalayan zone, and that is when the Himalayas have developed due to the tectonic plates. We have so much of science, so much of geographical science, so much of the biological science, and so much of history to go through and know the facts. And where are we today? We are not supposed to quarrel with each other, fight with each other. We can talk and in a loving manner get to discuss things, get to learn things with each other, and grow together for the betterment of each other, and grow together in the love of God. That's all.